Hey, Mark.
Hey, Steph, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. So?
Well, I was really excited when I read your message that you want to do a what-if scenario with all the data you've got.
Yeah. I'm building the mother load of spreadsheets. Yeah.
I can imagine. So tell me, how exactly do you want to go about this? And is there anything you need from me for help or anything that I can do?
Well, I just wanted to kind of brainstorm with you as to your sustainable money system.
Yeah.
It was brilliantly explained in 17 minutes. I mean, you went from showing us how it all works and then a legitimate alternative.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I think that the question I'm having is from an operational perspective, if you have, if we have this balance sheet, you have these assets, right?
Yeah.
You have time, you have land and all these other asset classes, and you want to live kind of off the interest, and you want to, and you want to create the money in sufficient supply to maintain the asset, right? In terms of its integrity, that's kind of the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Then what kind of liquidity stream does that suggest, right? And of course, we're stripping out interest charges. So I think you're correct. I think you can get to a 20-hour work week very quickly.
Yeah.
If you strip out that hidden burden. So that's always the question I say. So let's run a scenario where we say, all right, we don't have debt money anymore, but we have this sustainable money system.
Yeah.
That's directly connected to time or hours, right?
Well, it's connected directly to human capacity.
Right.
Actually, I was talking today with a friend of mine, and at one point we started talking about resource-based economy, and where I think like it's a really good idea, but the accounting would be a nightmare because you can just not keep track of everything that exists on the planet. And then it also all of a sudden dawned to me that what the sustainable money system does, it does keep track of living people, because the money supply scales with the amount of people that you have on the planet.
Right.
So what you actually start representing with the money is human capacity.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the building block, the basic building block of our economy. If you would take humans out of the picture, then the entire thing would just organize itself.
Absolutely. Nature's already optimizing all the time, right? It's always moving to homeostasis in the resilience kind of theory. And so nature does that already perfectly.
So we as human, the thing that is added to the system is human human organization, actually, that we want to organize ourselves in a certain way that makes life pleasant and meaningful.
Yeah. So,
Um,
I want to boldly ask you to, right now I'm recording this, so it
yeah,
could be the basis of a short podcast on my show.
that's okay.
So maybe just want to, I can edit it later, but you can introduce yourself, and you've just done this amazing TEDx in Antwerp and kind of
Yeah.
blew us away about the nature of the money system and your vision for a sustainable money system.
Well,
This will only be audio, by the way. I
okay.
don't post video as such,
Okay.
unless people want it, but
Yeah.
audio is simpler. Yeah.
So yeah, who am I? Well, I started my career in IT
Yeah.
up until in 2006. I started doing improv as a hobby, and then all of a sudden started wondering why I was spending all my time sitting behind computers. And the funny thing is actually that improv was the start of this entire trajectory that eventually led to developing an alternative monetary system. And it's been a weird path because with the improv, I was like, oh, I want to have more fun in my life. And
Yeah.
doing improv I want to be amongst people again instead of just spending time with code.
And you're in Antwerp, Belgium, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, close to Antwerp, like right next to it.
So isn't that where all the jewels are traded, like the grand jewel?
Yeah, Antwerp's still a hub of diamond trade. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. There's actually a joke here in Belgium, like Antwerp is the city and the rest is parking space. So I kind of ride.
So I'm fascinated. So you do improv, and sometimes I said the only way to address this really amazing money system is with humor and sarcasm, because it's so simple, it's ridiculous. Like I think John Galbraith said, creation of money is so simple, the mind is repelled, he said, in his 1971 book. And
Yeah.
so have you come to that also conclusion that it's quite
it's when I was talking to people in the financial world and economists, they were like, oh yeah, it's all very complicated. And when I started digging into it, I was like, no, it's not. There's like a lot of complicated structures built on top of it, but no one's talking about what's at the core.
Right.
I'm currently doing this course on money in banking on Coursera, where they talk about monetary markets and everything. You see a whole bunch of complicated constructs, and there's like overnight lending and repos and Fed funds and $0 markets and everything. And you're like, okay, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff going back and forth, but no one's talking where the money's coming from.
It's like the walnut trick, right? Where's the pea in each walnut? And you've lost track of where the pea is, but in fact, all money is created as a debt instrument. I mean, in our current system, 98% is debt money, which the banks have license to create as ledger entries, which you beautifully illustrate in your TED Talk, which I say it's one of the most simple. I've seen lots of, I've studied this stuff for my whole life. But I thought your icons and diagram was so simple. And also that truth that, when you repay your loan, you're just actually destroying money, which is kind of paradoxical, isn't it?
Yeah, for a lot of people, that's kind of like, what? They go like, no, that's not true. I mean, and most of the time, it's especially people that have studied economics that go like, no, that's not true. And I ask the simple question, like, where does money come from?
And their brains start to go, right? Even the loan officer go, I've never thought about it.
Yeah.
And then you see them spinning out of control because it doesn't.
And then the funny thing is, and you get answers like, oh, work. And I go, well, no. Work just moves money from the employer, from the employer to the employee. He
Yeah.
doesn't create money, he just moves it.
Paul Martin, our former prime minister and finance minister, said, when asked, where does money come from? And he said, well, he's stumbling, he's fiddling with his coffee cup. And this 20-year-old kid from Toronto asked him that question point blank. He goes, well, actually, in the beginning, well, there was trade. And that was, but it's the funniest movie because the kid goes out in the street, asks all these really smart people, and people just average folks, and they're like, I never thought about it. I don't know. And when the finance minister fumbles and can't say.
But that's also why I used the slide from the website of the European Central Bank. You go like, look, here it literally says so. Banks create money and then destroy it again.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, since I do not have a formal education in economics, which I think is an advantage in this case.
It is.
Because I've just started digging into it myself and kind of go like, oh, where does the money come from? And when I first saw that on the website of Positive Money from the UK, to be really honest, I first thought it was a conspiracy theory.
Absolutely, that's where we go, right? Or you get dismissed. Or you're just one of those wackos who hates the Rothschilds or something. Like, no.
Like it cannot be, because I was approaching that from actually from my IT background.
Yeah,
money creation is an algorithm. You can write it in computer code. Okay, so you could create money. And I was like, but if you write an algorithm like that, then you're gonna get in trouble because it doesn't add up. It doesn't balance out. This is an exponential system by design, and exponential systems always explode.
Yeah.
So I started digging further until in 2014, I came across the paper that was published by the Central Bank of England, where they explained the exact same thing. And I was like, okay, I guess that these guys know what you're talking about. They're the Central Bank of England.
Yeah.
If they say this is so, then I guess it's true.
If Mark Carney can say it, Mark Carney's from Edmonton, Alberta, where I am. If they admit, right?
Yeah.
But notice what happens in the British Parliament. Nothing. Crickets. There's no further conversation about this revelation that should actually send alarm bells ringing.
The entire political world is just quiet about it. Here in Belgium, currently, we're still trying to form a government. I'm pretty sure we will probably break our previous world record, which sits at 451 days without a federal government.
Isn't that wonderful? It's almost like maybe it's just irrelevant. Maybe
we have reserve governments. I mean, I probably think we have the most governments per capita in the world.
Wow.
We have 6 or 7 governments.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, we have, I don't know, I think 4 ministers of climate or 5, and we still don't have a real climate plan.
Wow. So
Belgium is the ultimate example of how you can use bureaucracy to grind progress to a halt. We're masters at that. We've cut up responsibilities in such a way that nothing moves anymore.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing.
So this is the question I have, and one thing I've been posing is this elephant in the room. I mean, if you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, I mean, look at even the climate emergency talk. No conversation about this other ringing bell, which is this impending, metastasized debt mountain, right? Which is like cancer that is already consuming in the US. My numbers, these are just, I got to calculate these numbers. It's not official. Is half of our working life, half of the American working life is going to pay for hidden interest charges.
Yeah.
That means that a good portion of GDP, of course, is hidden interest charges.
Yeah.
My numbers on the US debt the actually gross interest charges on that federal debt, which is now what, 21 or trillion, is not properly stated. They use the word net. So it's actually the largest, on a gross basis, the largest line item in the US budget, more than the US military. And yet no discussion is being had by the climate activists, whatever,
I know.
as to, well, if we wanted to take some air out of this balloon, we need to have this conversation. This is a human creation.
Yeah.
You know, not ecologically. If we reduce the global GDP by half, simply by changing the nature of money creation, we presumably we can reverse this ridiculous greenhouse gas exponential curve.
It's also what I've been trying to do over the last couple of years is try to get environmental movements to look at the money problem.
Right.
And up till now, I had zero success. It's as if, I don't know. It's like, oh yeah, this is something that we need to solve this climate change problem now. But it's kind of like, to me, like you got an apartment building and it's starting to fall down, and you go like, oh, you have to look at the area it's built on.
The foundation. Yeah.
Like, look at the foundations. And then you go like, oh, there's cracks in the walls that need to be repaired. It's like, yeah, but if you fix the foundations, then the rest will actually do.
That's right. Yeah. So you said until now. So why are you getting attention now? Is it because your TEDx talk? Is it because why?
I still haven't got traction with climate change movements.
Okay.
Still not. I'm hoping that the TEDx talk will do something about that.
Yeah.
I have no clue how far it's spread. It's I think it has a potential to spread far and wide.
It's short enough. It was 17 minutes. I mean, you did something brilliant in 17 minutes, maybe because of your improv experience. You have to
actually. That's the funny thing. I got out of IT because I was tired, sick of working with just computers, and also especially because the job started to get. It was more plumbing. Building configuration files to stitch services together and stuff, that actually really the creative work that I always liked in IT. So that was the reason I got out. And then I did improv, and everything kind of came together because I still have the IT perspective really helped me in creating a new algorithm. The improv and the theater courses, because I've got a master in film and acting that I did in Calgary, actually, because I took a sabbatical for a year.
Wow.
I moved to Calgary to do improv with Loose Moose there. And then did a master in film and acting with Groves.
So you know our province and all of its amazing assets and its abilities. I mean, this is we could talk about that as an application of the stable money system. But so you did that master's, and then
So and then
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
And then afterwards, because I also did a course on creative thinking. I did a coaching training. I did a business intervention training. I did a leadership course in the States. And the leadership course kind of all fit all the pieces of the puzzles together. And at the end of the course, we had to announce a quest, something that we really wanted to bring to the world. And by then, I had been looking at the relationship between our economic system and climate change already. I hadn't dug deep enough to get to the monetary system itself. But the only thing I could come up with at the end of the leadership program was, I want to change the world economic system. I was having this conversation with myself, like, Stef, you're crazy. You cannot do that. Isn't there something else you can have as a question? I was like, no.
I'm a dog with a bone. I'm going to.
So I stood up in front of the group, and it's like, well, my quest is, I want to change the world economic system. this was in the States, and I think that was a good thing because everyone was like, "Yeah, go for it." And everything.
It's
Well, I
crazy.
myself was,
Crazy guy from Antwerp. He's eating too many truffles and French fries.
yeah, I had no clue how to go about it. I was like, "Okay, this is what I want to do, but how?"
Mm.
And I'm still figuring it out because I haven't found the book 10 Steps to Change the World Economic System yet. So
Well, I think we're on that right path. So one of the things that I want you to outline is, I've tried to write about this a sustainable money system as well, so that money doesn't have to be created as debt. It can be created in parallel with our human capacity,
yeah,
or time, energy units, joules of energy, whatever, the natural capacity of land to produce food. All of these criterion can be put into the central bank's algorithm, to create and I think you've explained this, just enough money for a guaranteed income. Nobody should go to sleep ever again anxious about tomorrow.
yeah,
It shouldn't engender laziness or couch sitting. Somehow we have to figure that one out. But I think people are hardwired to work. I mean,
yeah,
we like to have meaningful work. So if all those criteria are in place, can you walk us through kind of your kind of vision of a sustainable money system? If we're actually able to just reboot, the system today, wipe out all the debts, like literally wipe the whole thing.
yeah,
Would have to be a global wipeout because you can't leave one country standing, and then everyone wakes up on Monday and it's like, whoop, okay, what's happened? All of
yeah,
your debts are wiped out, but now we have a new system. Can you paint us a picture in the improv kind of stand-up comic?
yeah. Well, I'll speak a little bit from my own experience because I've kind of been through a transition that I moved to a situation where I had a sort of basic income because I grew up in a fairly wealthy family and I own some property and that actually provides most of my income.
Right.
And when I started out as a self-employed person, in the beginning, I was confused because you get up in the morning and there's no one who tells you what to do.
Right. You
And
don't
in
have
the
a
beginning,
boss, someone
yeah,
nagging you.
and it was like, this is weird. So what am I gonna do today?
What am I gonna do? It's true. It's true.
And and for a while, I still had a contract in IT, but I was only part time. So for the rest of the time, I was totally free to do with my time whatever I wanted to do. And for a couple of months, I played a lot of video games. A lot. I was playing World of Warcraft at the time,
Work.
and I played a lot of World of Warcraft. But this is what I think will happen to most people is you need to go through a transition phase. You need to allow people to kind of go like, now what?
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, because after a couple of months, I kind of got bored with just playing video games.
Yeah.
And I was already reading articles, but more and more, I started looking into things. I really started looking at this climate change problem. I was reading a lot more about human behavior, what incentivizes us, books like Nudge and stuff like that. So I really got into self-study on a whole lot of different topics.
Mm.
And eventually also monetary economics. If you would have talked to me like, say, 10 years ago, and you would have told me like, you're going to go hardcore into monetary economics, I would have said like, you're absolutely crazy. I'm totally not interested in economics.
Right.
But the fact that I could just figure out what I was going to do with my life brought a lot of meaning and purpose to my life. For a long time, I was also very nervous when someone asked me, "What do you do?" Because I was like, I actually don't really do anything right now. Every now and then I do a workshop or I facilitate a brainstorm session. But for the rest, I kind of, I don't know, go from day to day.
Kind of a fraud.
I'm curious about the world, but
I'm an economic outlier. I am not a cog in the economic matrix. Yeah.
yeah, and that feels weird because everyone else is still in that world, and then you also realize like, oh, a job defines us.
So did you kind of feel like Neo in the Matrix?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a job defines us. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then you kind of step out of and you kind of look at it from a distance a bit, and you go like, what the fuck's going on?
Why are people so busy?
Yeah, this is crazy.
What are people doing?
Because you know, people always say like, oh, we live in a consumption society. Well, we don't.
No.
We live in a production society, and our production society has gone wild, and we're overproducing like crazy.
Yeah.
And then all that overproduction has to be sold to people that have to be convinced that they're consumers.
And we have enough stuff. We have reasonably high levels of happiness. I mean, we have a distribution problem, inequity, but as such, we're actually better off than 100 years ago.
And at the same time, we're really unhappy.
Yeah.
I'm currently reading a book called Tribe.
Right. That's great.
What?
That's a great book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seth.
And one of the things that, because I was reading it today on the train back home, and what really stood out is like the mass shootings in the United States, they all happen in middle class, white areas.
Yes.
I don't want to say communities anymore because the problem is there's a lack of community. Everyone's just on their own.
Yeah. It's a complete narcissistic society.
Yeah.
And we know that happiness, the primary driver of happiness is relationships. So we've fractured. Our relational capital is in tatters.
And commercials are telling us, if you buy this, then you'll be happy. Yeah. And everyone's kind of chasing this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you buy it and you get your dopamine shot for a little bit, and then a week later it's like, oh, I actually feel shit again, and then you need to buy something else and something else and something else.
Yeah, we're all addicts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
We're bombarded by advertisements.
So I'm curious. I know I'll go off on tangents too, but you said you played Warcraft for many months.
Yeah.
And I've created this crazy idea called, initially it was called Soulcraft. Okay. The notion that why are we on this planet? Like why we're, Steph, if you had a wise auntie who told you the reason you were born is because you're going to be, she already saw that what you're capable of. And you were told that at 8 years of age. So now the rest of your life, you kind of reflecting on what is my purpose. And, I am a soul, I'm a spirit in a body, and I have something to contribute. So what if life now is about helping each other?
Yeah.
Increase in the indigenous world, they have the notion of the medicine wheel. So we're a sacred hoop. We're mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional, right? And those have to be in harmony and balance. So the idea was, could we create a platform, a kind of game of life where the goal is to actually help each other, achieve why we're here, but also kind of optimize that medicine wheel.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a platform, and I wrote it up as a kind of blockchain technology. So I don't know anything about blockchain. I mean, only enough to be dangerous to say, all right, it could be a technology worth kicking the tires around. If we have this crazy money system, then maybe we can use this platform to acknowledge that each of us, say each male in the developed world has 700,000 hours of life energy, average life expectancy, say 80 years of age, then wouldn't it be cool that you and I can have an interaction? So we're using our life energy in
Yeah.
a way that we mutually verify that I'm contributing somehow to your level of hope, soul peace, whatever. I wake up in the morning. One of the questions, I wake up in the morning, how much love do I feel for myself? Nobody asks you that question, right? And so this now becomes a kind of currency in which we have an optimization algorithm going here.
Yeah.
I care about your well-being, right? And whether I ever get compensated in any sort of monetary sense, maybe that's not the issue. The issue is you're the best person you can possibly be in this moment in your life, especially if you're 45, because you're supposedly at the bottom of your happiness curve, right? And so let's make life a little easier between the 8-year-old Stef, who was the happiest you're going to be until you're 70.
Yeah.
And you can build a bridge across that valley. So that was kind of the idea I had. And I've kicked this idea around, but as you say, where do I go? I go to Singapore, I go places where there's lots of money and lots of success, and Holland, the progressive countries. And mostly what I get is that's really cool. But then it's like, so what happened on Monday? Well, I'm busy. I don't have time. I don't have the money to do it. Even this director of fintech with Singapore Monetary Authority, who's become a friend, is so what you have, Mark, is an amazing platform. You should come to our blockchain, international symposium, and come with a minimal viable product and an ICO. What's an ICO? Initial coin, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And yet it's amazing. We don't get the traction. So either the idea is not well formulated or compelling enough, or we have a system with so much inertia that it's difficult to imagine a reboot. Or
we're also drawn into the system. Actually, doing good in this system is really hard, while doing something destructive is really easy.
Yeah.
From a monetary perspective, you get rewarded way more if you destroy something than when you build something.
Right.
Now, with the entire purpose thing, my view on life is that if you look at it from a cosmic perspective, everything is meaningless.
Everything's what?
Meaningless. There is no meaning.
You're right. Everything's meaningless. Yeah.
There is no meaning to life. There is no meaning to existence. But what I believe that we have as human beings, and this is what I think makes us fairly unique, we can give meaning to anything. We are creators of meaning.
Yes. Yeah.
And we are the only primates, as far as I know, that possess a thing called intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with the fact that we evolved, that we have to move to survive. We are the only primate that cannot sit in its lazy ass all day without dying.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think it's somehow biologically linked to intrinsic motivation. I'm not sure it's just a theory I have. But we have a will to do something. We seek meaning in life.
Yes.
And we're also the one sort of intelligence that puts us apart from all the other primates is social intelligence.
Yes.
All the other types of intelligence, there are primates that beat us. So we're actually not so smart. We're not strong. Our senses are dull compared to a whole lot of other animals, and yet we manage to rule the planet because we're social and collaborative. That's our nature, and our current economic system suppresses that.
Absolutely.
It forces us to compete on a level that is not human.
Hence the subject of tribe, right? I mean, when you delve into, we're all tribal. We're relational beings, right?
And I believe that if we are given the freedom to um, to go through that transition that I've been through, like, give people time that they have, give people the means and the security that they can get up in the morning and really ask themselves, what do I want to do with my life? That after a while, the vast majority of people will find something meaningful to do. And we will recreate community. And that because there's also a very strong tendency to change everything into transactions that are measurable.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's where I've learned that this idea that, call it soul printing now, is not necessarily meaningful. Well, so not necessary per se. People say, oh, that's really nice, but nobody's going to actually, I get cynical youth saying, you really think people are naturally hardwired to be altruistic and giving? I said, yes, I do. But you're suspicious. He says, yeah, I'm Russian. I'm a Russian kid, right? I don't believe it. I'm like, good. He's brilliant. He's an IT guy. He's a young guy. He really liked the 19-year-old, right? And I said, let's meet. We'll have coffee, and I want to know what you want to do with your life. And here's my concept paper. And he was actually cynical.
Yeah.
That I don't think people are going to play on this platform. And I said, all right, that's interesting. That's one perspective. But I'd like to step back and ask you then, though, at the end of your talk, your TEDx, I mean, this notion of a sustainable money system, where we imagine tomorrow, say Belgium or Alberta, we have a monetary authority that still exists. But it's we the people now. So we are going to operate on the basis of what I would call a proper balance sheet. So, land, people, relationships, right, which is social capital. We have built infrastructure like the foundation, the buildings and that, roads. And so the goal then is to optimize those physical and qualitative conditions of well-being, because that's what the word wealth means. So imagine that we could create enough liquidity or units of exchange that are directly connected to that goal of maintaining the assets and the flow of benefits or the meaningfulness, right, of human beings and our innate gifts, right? So we can be the best we can be. So the whole goal is better. Can you, now you've clearly, you've simplified this so simply. It's like, there is demand for liquidity or money or whatever units want to call it, and it gets created, people get paid, everyone gets a guaranteed income. Excess, use demurrage, which is a beautiful word. Most people don't have any idea what that means. It's like a negative interest rate in a net present value formula. Means you build 200-year projects called cathedrals because you don't care if you live long to see it. So there's a disincentive for hoarding. But anyways, I'll let you express your vision.
Well, the one, there's one thing that we see in the workshops that I organize. And you play a simple card game, and there's a jar in the middle. And people can voluntarily donate money for a common cause to the jar.
Okay.
When we play the game with the sustainable money system, we set the demurrage at 50% if you go above a certain. The game is simplified. It's actually, if you have less than 4,000, then at certain intervals we will give you 2,000. If you have more than 6,000, then 50% rounded out of the surplus is taken away. In the game, we don't say where that money goes to.
So it's almost like it's like playing poker, and you've got a big box of chips, and the house, whatever, the poker leader circle can always, if you're running low on chips, you're literally out of the game. I want to keep you in the game, so I can literally just hand you a bunch of chips, and we just keep playing. As long as everyone, and the guy that has a big pile, well, we'll have to figure out how to redistribute that. Maybe we just take some off, we demurrage that. Yeah.
Now, there's something really interesting happening with the game. Because if people would really be so rational and selfish as economists claim, then no one would donate money to the
Right.
job,
Right.
right?
Right.
But what we see happening time and time again is that instead of paying 50% demurrage, people put 100% in the jar.
Wow.
And that's, from a behavioral point of view, really interesting, because and this happens time and time and time again. Some people have, after a while, they go like, oh, I can put money in the jar. They see because it's played in rounds of 3 minutes, and then there's breaks where
Yeah.
we calculate demurrage and give people their basic income.
So give me just pause for a minute. So give me an idea that let's say you have 500 poker chips, right? That's your desired optimum amount, and you have 600. You're saying the typical behavior is to take 100 and put it in the jar.
Yeah.
100% of the excess, the 100.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Got it.
And what we believe the reason is, if we take the demurrage, then people have no clue where the money goes to. If they put it in the jar, then they know what it will be used for.
Yeah.
So within the current design of the sustainable money system, we give people a choice to where their demurrage will go to. Like this is a list of projects for the common good. Where do you want your money to go to? So you kind of create an ownership feeling of like, okay, I pay my demurrage, but at least I know it goes to something that I support.
Who has the power to distribute the jar, the demurrage in the jar?
Well, people just say like this percent, they can say list percentages, and then go like this percentage of my demurrage goes there, or they can just say like, just divide it over everything.
So if there's 10 of us playing a game and you've got 100 chits left, and could I just say, I'm going to dip into the jar and give you 400, just arbitrary, on my own volition.
In the game, the money is just collected, and
Right,
it's not
right.
distributed.
I argued the same kind of system as possible. I said, if you knew that you have a bank account, right, in the current system, and you knew that some of my savings, it will become credit for the next entrepreneur who comes in the bank, and he's opening up a really cool coffee shop. I could I actually say to my banker, I would like to give 10% of my savings. I want to see that 10% is going to that business. Can you show me? Even of course in the system, it's not entirely. It's a jar, and so, but I thought that would be a cool system where then I could feel a relationship between my savings and then literally an investment, a debt investment in my neighbor.
I even see, because since I can imagine that some actors will start gathering larger amounts of money than others, but I can even see loans happening with negative interest rates. To say,
right.
Yeah, imagine that I'm at because the idea is also, I could not explain that in the talk because it goes too much into detail. But you have tiers in demurrage. So the more you have, the higher the demurrage will be.
Right.
I can easily imagine that it would be a 90% demurrage tier. If you go above 100 million or something, that or even less, maybe 50 million. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have a 90% demurrage tier, and if you're there, say, imagine that you're in a 90% demurrage tier with a significant amount of money. I can really imagine that you go like, what, there's a cool project there. I'm gonna lend you the money at a negative interest rate of 50%.
Yeah.
I'm still making a profit.
Absolutely. Still.
And the person has to pay me back half of what I've given them. And it's still beneficial for me.
Absolutely.
It would be
beautiful. I mean,
a total overhaul of the monetary market.
I mean, and again, to show that analytically, in an algorithm, in a spreadsheet would be really powerful, because I think people need to, like you do in your with your imaging. That's the key. I think is people need to see it. And I said we could play this whole economy out on Excel. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you and I were, going to explore today. Is like, I could show you the balance sheet of Alberta, right, and all of its assets, land, oil, unfunded well site liabilities. There's liabilities too that have to be taken care of.
Yeah.
So I can then imagine, since we have, I don't know if you know, but we have the biggest public bank in North America called Alberta Treasury Branch, and it was founded in 1938 when Alberta was in the depths of the depression, and we were bankrupt. So we had this crazy premier who was he was a Bible thump, he's a preacher, and he borrowed this idea from Sir Roger Douglas, not Roger Douglas, C.H. Douglas in the UK, who was kind of the creator of the social credit. And I said, so the fact that we still have this public bank 100% backed by the assets of the province means, what does that mean? It means we can create our own credit, our own liquidity in parallel with the balance sheet of the province. Now, you say, what do you mean? It's like, well, it means we can lend to ourselves at no cost, at no interest. Of course, we're still going to run the operation. We need to recover operating costs, and we can start even imagine demurrage scenarios, especially in key portfolios like affordable housing. We just analyzed just yesterday the unfunded well site cleanup reclamation liabilities at roughly $70 billion. That is a lot of money. We only have 17 billion in our heritage petroleum fund, which Norway used as a model, and they have 1.2 trillion. We have 17 billion, right? And we have a $70 billion unfunded liability that doesn't sit on anyone's books.
Yeah.
So we can actually finance all of these things tomorrow within the existing system we have built. And that's what I'd like to play out and say, at least let's have a conversation. And I don't have to be theatrical about this. I need to be sober and prudent.
Yeah. It's that's kind of the funny thing with the entire economics profession. They talk about the rational economic man, but the entire way that things are approached are very irrational. The entire system is totally irrational because it doesn't take into account the non-rational behavior of human beings and the desire to do good.
The desire to do good, the common longing for better, I just use that simple word, and the shocking disregard for basic accounting rules. They've been around since Leonardo da Vinci and Luca Pacioli in 14th century Venice. I mean, the same accounting rules, and we violate them. We actually do not prepare balance sheets for the state, for Canada. It's preposterous.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental flaw in basic business practices, and there's no conspiracy here. It's just like, how is that? How did that happen? Who made that decision not to measure those assets or account for those liabilities? It would imply there's complicity amongst the accounting profession. Everybody's on the take. I'll just ignore my liabilities and my responsibilities, and I'll make hay as much as I can and get away with it. And if I go bankrupt, who cares? Someone else will pick up the pieces, and we'll kick the liability down to the next generation.
That's also what the interest does, is that it devalues the future in accordance to the present.
Right, which is the brilliance of demurrage, right?
Yeah.
How is it that this? I mean, we teach finance. You say you discount the future using that present value, and the discount rate is. And I said, so how do we decide what the discount rate is? Are you saying the future is less valuable than it is now? If you say this wetland or this river, are you saying it's actually less valuable in the future with growing human population?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
That's what our formulas tell us.
Yeah. Yeah, and then everyone gets so caught up in the formulas that we get really detached from reality.
Yeah.
And I can see it happening because when I was going through that course about the money markets, I can easily see how you get lost in it. And then you're just thinking about, oh, I need to lend 100 million today and repay that tomorrow, and then I need to move these assets, and but you're totally up in the virtual world that has nothing to do anymore with the physical world that we live in.
Yeah.
And I can totally understand how people get sucked into that.
Absolutely.
It's a game.
Yeah, it's a game.
It's World of Warcraft on steroids.
Yeah, it truly is, and it's stunning. I mean, I've always loved the movie The Matrix, but I used to tell my business students, the world is very much like The Matrix. In fact, in a way, it's even, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's cooler, but it's remarkable that the system has persisted as long as it has.
Yeah,
Preying on our collective ignorance, and we're never educated. I mean, here you sit playing Warcraft and you realize, what am I going to do with, now I'm out of the Matrix, and you're walking around. That's what my revelation was years ago. I'm like, why are you so happy? Let me see. I'm debt free. So as a business person, what does that mean if I have no debt anymore? Well, I have some choices. I could take that extra $1,000 a month that I'm now not paying to the bank for the house. I can buy more stuff. I can buy organic vegetables for the first time. I can support local farmers. Or I could spend more time with young business students who want to start something cool. And they're like, how can you spend 2 hours with me this afternoon? Because I only have to work 3 hours a day to make my living wage, right, for the household. Do you want to know how to do that? Yes. Could you teach us? Because nobody teaches you that. That's business 101, and so those are the things when you wake up, you're like, wow, why is everybody so unhappy? And in a system where I can't go to sleep at night, knowing that my neighbor's suffering unnecessarily.
That's also my drive, because I see what it has done to me if I just having the time to stand still and really think about life. And I wish that for everyone.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I just want everyone to have the luxury to get up in the morning and really think about, what do I really want to do with my life? And ask that question to people on the street. And I think most people have no clue. I've asked that question to a couple of people, and so imagine that you wake up tomorrow morning and you have enough money to live your life. What would you want to get out of bed for?
Actually, I would love to add that question to my questionnaire. That's a brilliant question. I mean, isn't that the question of life, right?
Yeah.
If I woke up, I had no more debts, and I could do whatever I want with the remaining time I have, and what would it be?
Yeah. What would make you get out of bed?
Yeah, that's right.
You actually go I want to jump out of bed and go do that.
Yeah. I know I had to get out of bed to let the dog out and make the espresso.
Yeah.
I work at home. I was like, I could sit in my house coat all day, but that'd be boring, because actually I want to go skiing this morning. And I'm going to I have some great clients. I get to analyze Alberta's economy. Like, I've got the whole data set on my laptop. The chief economist doesn't even have that.
Wow.
The province. It's so preposterous. and it's on my laptop.
Yeah.
And I can just hit play the jar game. Let's play the jar game. I mean, wouldn't that, I would love to do that. I would love to create, just for fun,
Yeah.
a game, a platform where we actually play what you're talking about. And you're saying you have witnessed it, you have played it, and you've seen human behavior respond in this way, in a mutually reinforcing, beneficial,
Yeah.
tribal way, where we are naturally inclined to give and share.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
And the behavior shifts in the time span of an hour. Because we play the game twice.
Do people wonder, does something click in their head to say, why isn't our economy, why couldn't our economy operate this way?
Yeah. And some people, and this is thing like, yeah, but this is great, but how are you ever going to implement this? I was like, okay, usually my answer to that is everything's impossible until it's done.
Right.
Because you don't have to go back too far in history. Voting rights for commoners was unimaginable. Voting rights for women, are you absolutely crazy?
Yeah.
Marriage rights for gays, no way.
No, nowhere.
This is a really funny anecdote from the end of the 19th century. There was a women's movement in London, and they were vying to limit the weight of the underwear they had to wear to 3 kilograms.
Okay, because they had these corsets and crates that they had to wear.
And back then, it was unimaginable that women would only wear 3 kilograms of underwear.
And now they wear these like things that are like, what is this thing?
Imagine telling any woman today, you have to wear 3 kilograms of underwear. It's unimaginable.
Yeah, it's like putting chainmail on. Really, I have to put this bloody chainmail on to go into Brussels to work? No. Unimaginable.
There's another thing that, and this is an assumption of mine. I think it's a quality of what the sustainable money system might bring. Once people get through the entire transition phase, because we will need to give people to transition from where they are now to what they can be.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
And I also believe that at one point money will become less important. That people will start doing things for each other again without needing a monetary transaction.
Right.
So I believe that over time, the monetary system will be there just in case you need it. But that a lot will happen without needing to exchange money. And I'm not sure to what extent that will happen.
We're seeing it already. I mean, in Airbnb, I mean, these kind of shared asset platforms, like cars, living spaces. These become common wealth now. Even land.
It's still currently most of those initiatives are still extractive.
They're still
because
Airbnb,
right. There's a small group of people that gets really rich from the resources of a whole lot of other people.
Yeah.
And there's now Airbnb has launched.
Really?
They're still not fully operational, I think, but I think that's more where we need to go to. That also what comes in gets reshipped, and the sustainable money system would create an incentive for that. Because that small group of people, if they start collecting a shitload of money, they will have to start paying a shitload of demurrage. So it will be redistributed.
Right.
The system nudges you towards that. You can still go like, I want to make a shitload of money, and I'm going to make sure that my income stream is really high and that I spend a lot, but that'll cost you a lot of energy. And I think after a while, people will go like, you know what, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of smile and I, watch Bill Gates on this movie about him, I think that's interesting. Or Warren Buffett, these super rich guys, right? And they're having fun. They're trying to solve some of the most challenging world issues, polio, whatever. And that's all great, you know. But meanwhile, thousands, millions of people don't earn a living wage. And I'm like, you know, if all the billionaires just got together and demiraged their excess, everyone would have a living wage in the world. There'd
Yeah.
be no poverty. It'd be over.
Yeah.
And those guys, the 2,000 billionaires, they don't. There's no incentive. And I would say it's actually only a very few number of people who have this massive excess, and they themselves admit, I don't need it. Elon Musk could lose it all, and he would start again on Monday with another idea. He would go to Venus instead of Mars, whatever. It's like he doesn't care.
But it's also it's not even rightfully their money, really.
Right, exactly.
Because all that money came to them because a whole lot of people were working for them.
And a whole lot of people decided, you know, Microsoft is a good product.
Yeah.
You know, I need a tablet to write. I have 3 different program options, but you know what? I like this suite of programs because they talk. It's convenient. Of course, I'm going to use it. The next thing you know, he has $50 billion.
Yeah. But the thing there is, Bill Gates has done, and okay, I hate Windows, but that's another issue.
Yeah, me too.
But for the rest, he's a brilliant guy, has done great stuff, but he has not written every single line of code of Windows. He has not put together every single computer that they sell.
Yeah.
That's, those are people that work for him, that work for Microsoft, that do that.
Yes.
But all those profits go to the owner of the company.
Yeah. So
it's all fine that, I do not, we do not need full equality, but what we need is fair inequality.
But we also need, isn't this the sort of the challenge we face? You know, here we have yet another meeting at Davos, right? And you know, we have all the drama and stuff, and none of these conversations are in play right now. The collective kind of agreement that, you know what, if we just stop for a moment, as you did, you stop for it's like it was a timeout that allowed you to go, wait a minute, you know, now of all these really smart, rich folks who meet at Davos, and I'm not maybe giving them enough credit. Would they have even the compassion to do what we're suggesting is one of the behavioral economic questions. Because in a way, there's an incentive to keep the system the way it is, of course.
It's also one of the things that I do take into account is they're also a victim of the system itself.
Absolutely.
And I also, and this is also something I have from experience, I had a fairly large inheritance. I put part of it into renovation of my house, and another huge chunk I gave to family so that they could build a house too. And now, but when I had this large amount of money on my bank account, I also experienced a really big aversion loss feeling.
Interesting.
That all of a sudden, because I had so much, I was more afraid of losing it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's what they say. That those who have a lot are actually afraid of losing it.
Yeah, and now that it's gone again, it's actually it's more relaxed.
That's the amazing part. I think Lynn Twist, who wrote The Soul of Money, talks about that. He said on the ends of the bell curve, you have the rich who are afraid of losing it, and those who are clamoring for their money, and the poor who struggle too. You know, but I think there's equal pain almost on both ends of that spectrum.
If you're kind of in the middle, there you go, like, I got enough coming in, so I don't have to worry about it. Then, and there's not so much that you have in reserve that is like, oh, it would be a total disaster if it's gone. But that there's like some security, like, if something would happen tomorrow, I have some. Then actually, it feels way more relaxed than when you go like, oh, I've got a huge pile of money and now, well, I have to do something with it. It has to well, maybe I should turn into a little bit more because that would feel safer. And it never does.
No.
So I also understand why billionaires are reluctant to say, like, you know what, I'll give 99% away. Because also your numbers change. Now today, I need to take care about what I spend, and I need to do some bookkeeping. It's like, oh, I better not do this, and oh, I've already spent too much. I need to take care of the rest of the month. But when I had the more money, there was like, oh yeah, I'll spend 500 euros, and that's pocket money. If I today, 500 euros is like, okay, if I do that now, then I need to be really careful for the next couple of months. And so your perspective changes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that we also need to take into account. And then there's another thing. Have you ever read the book Scarcity?
I've heard of it. You're the second person I think who's mentioned it.
It's a really interesting read. What actually, they've done some really, really good research. Really, they really eliminated a lot of influences.
Right.
And what their main conclusion is that if people live in scarcity, any type of scarcity, there's three things that happen. One is they get really focused on the object of scarcity.
Right.
Money, time, social context, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you get tunnel vision. Everything else kind of fades into the background.
Right.
Long-term vision, off the table. Everything becomes short-term thinking. And your IQ drops by about 15 points. Now, I believe that the majority of people in today's world live in a feeling of scarcity.
I agree. Yeah.
Imagine the potential you can unleash if you take all those people out of scarcity. And even politicians, because politicians have this scarcity on their balance sheets.
Yeah.
Because they need to balance their budgets. So they automatically gain tunnel vision, short-term thinking, and they become more stupid.
More stupid. They get more erratic in their, I mean, we see this in Alberta right now, right?
Yeah.
Oil is down. Nobody wants our oil. So we hunker down. We, build a fortress mentality, and everybody's out to get us. Everyone is against Alberta. And so we have the complete, instead of thinking, wait a minute, we actually have 200 years of this stuff in the ground.
Yeah.
200 years. The world is not going to stop using petroleum in some form tomorrow. It's not going to happen.
No,
but scarcity mindset. In fact, what actually I've shown is abundance.
Yeah.
I've said 200 billion, 200 years of supply.
Yeah.
That's just economic reserve. That's just what you can take out now economically out of the ground. And I'm like, well, so what's the rush? What's the rush to get more barrels out of the ground? Especially when you have a climate emergency ringing here.
Yeah.
And you like, no, we're entitled to this. Like, damn the world, damn everybody else.
It also all comes down to, and this is the basic question that is never asked. What does it actually mean to be human? How would a human-based society look like? Yeah, like really a society that is constructed around who we are as human beings.
Yes.
Because our current society is constructed around chimpanzees. Because I read an article a while ago. They found a Homo economicus, the rational economic man. It's a chimpanzee.
Yeah. Right.
So we build an entire society which would be perfect for chimpanzees. Not so much for you.
Right. Amazing.
So let's chat about that. Let's chat about how that would look like. Imagine you build a society and you just go like, who are we as human beings? And what would a society based on those needs and wants really look like?
Right. I think that's, maybe we can close on that is, I mean, I think that's my aspiration too.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm trying to do with this little survey instrument I've been using. Been just testing. It's a beta test. I got 800 people who've
yeah,
taken the survey. And it's called, well-being survey. And basically it's a reflection in the mirror of who you feel you are today in
yeah,
your 4 quadrants of that medicine wheel. And really that it's interesting when I look at the data, because I mean, like, I don't know what to do with the data. It's just you looking in the mirror.
yeah,
There's no right or wrong score. It is, if you say, no, my childhood was terrible, but I'm actually, my life satisfaction, I was 8 out of 10, but my childhood satisfaction was 2.
yeah,
Wow, like there's a story there. You transcended a terrible childhood. That's cool. Um, but it gets to the heart of our humanity,
yeah,
that, you know, we all will have challenges to face, but maybe when we look at the sum total of these, our little soul print profiles, we come to understand how I can help the other person
yeah.
just
And it
be a
feels
little
good.
better, feel better.
Yeah,
Collect your story like we're doing. This podcast platform is amazing. Nobody knows about Stef and Antwerp. I mean, nobody knows about me. I mean, you get crazy viral videos, on
yeah,
going on, and nobody, if even if 0.5% of Albertans listen to this interview and they're like, holy shit, and then our next question is, let's write the algorithm. Is there
yeah,
an optimization algorithm? You write code, we've got software, we've got artificial intelligence. We think, we have Siri who can't even understand a basic question. I
yeah,
saw a 2-year-old friend of mine from London, her niece, who's like 2, they videoed her asking her little tablet. I think
yeah.
she was asking Alexa, what movie should I watch today, Alexa? And Alexa says, I don't understand your question. What? You, and then she gets frustrated. She's like, just what movie do you have, listed for me? And Alexa can't answer.
Wow.
And then the next scene is mom handing her a water glass. Here, this is what you should do right now. Drink some water. But Alexa can't help her make a decision. Right.
Mm,
That is stunning.
yeah. Well, the one thing that I really also want to do is I want to create an online game, kind of like Second Life,
Yeah,
where we can start experimenting with new economic systems.
perfect. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm game.
Cool.
Cool. So this has been great. I mean, we could probably, it's been about an hour. So
Yeah.
but I think there's more to explore, and I know I'm serious about running Alberta through your, this scenario, because I've said, look, if I could prepare a rudimentary balance sheet for the
Yeah.
province and say, okay, all I have to do is define the asset classes, which I can do, and the
Yeah.
criteria on each asset class, call them sustainable criterion,
Yeah.
which is just should be very intuitive, you know.
Yeah.
So whether it's land or people and their use of, and then kind of think about, well, what kind of sustainable money system would function efficiently
Yeah.
in your kind of within your model, and just literally just play it out, visualize it, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess the logical question is, well, do we have to create a game for people to have the experience and go, oh, as you said, what did you say? Nothing until you build it. Like
No, I was,
you
I
can
was,
imagine it, but
yeah.
until you manifest it, people will just say, "Here, that's
Yeah.
crazy," or
What the game does, and this is, um, the game gives people an emotional experience. And I've seen that when we do the workshop and we let people play the game,
yeah,
the conversation we have afterwards is completely different from a conversation when I just do a theoretical explanation like these are the facts. We do not even get half as far as after playing the game. When
Wow.
you let people play the game, you let them be human beings within the system,
Yeah.
and they experience what it can be to be a human being within a different economic system, and that way surpasses their cerebral.
It's true. We have a friend who, my wife does mediation work and restorative justice, but her friend is an expert in circle process, right? So she explained this amazing experiment. So they did a circle workshop, and she says the first night, the Friday night, she asked everyone to come in circle, but no one can talk. But she says, so there's no interaction here, except there's in the middle of the room, the circle on the table is a bag full of pieces of driftwood. And she says, the game tonight is for you collectively to self-organize around creating a sculpture from this driftwood, which the game ends when nobody gets up again to rearrange the driftwood.
Yeah.
So they start, and there's this there's no interaction. You don't even know each other. You're just kind of interacting, and then 1 hour into the game, you think, okay, we're done, and someone gets up and knocks the whole thing off the table, and the blood pressure goes up. And she says, so they go to sleep, and they wait. In the morning, they then unpack. What did you experience? What did you feel? Right?
Yeah.
And she said it's just an amazing kind of exchange of emotions, but eventually people do sort of come to peace with what's collectively desirable there. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So
right.
when is so you've been experimenting with this game, and you're planning to?
Yeah, I'm actually giving another workshop tomorrow night here in Antwerp. We now have a partnership with Technopolis, which is an organization that has science expositions for kids.
Yeah.
And they've got business clients, and they're now selling the workshop as a team building workshop.
Wow.
We're working on the board game, which is a bit more complex, but which is closer to building a real economy. There you also have pollution and happiness, and import and export markets and production and everything in the game. And then we're, like I said, I really want to set up an online game, because it would do two things. It would give people around the world to experience what an alternative economy could look like.
Yeah.
And it would give us a shitload of behavioral data for research.
That's fantastic. Has anyone ever recorded the game, the live?
The board game has been recorded once, but the recording is not really good.
Okay. Be fascinating to have that to observe, like on.
Yeah.
To observe the interaction.
I'll see where I can, but it would be in Dutch, because I usually.
Oh, no, that's fine. I mean, just watching the behavioral. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I'll see whether I can arrange doing that.
You
I have to go, because I promised my girlfriend to cook dinner.
But of course, you have more time in the world than most people. So, and food is. I know women are like, hey, it's 5:30, and I'm going to become an angry bear. And my wife, same way. And I'm going to go out and ski.
Okay, have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great. I will. I always love these impromptu. So who should be next on my show? I think you should be. This will be great. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoyed our chat.
That was great. And I will. As I piece together this Alberta profile, I'll start sending you some of the.
Okay. And if there's anything you need from me, just let me know.
Fantastic. Okay. Stef, thank you so much.
Bye, Mark. Enjoy your skiing.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Bye.